now we know it officially starts, we can turn our attention to start getting parts for it. So I got a bit of a secret surprise situation going on, so stay tuned to the end of the video to hear all about that. After stripping the front and getting it started, I've got a good picture of what parts I would need. Not all of the parts that arrived this time around, but I've already started ordering the parts we will need. So let's see what I got. Now, first things first was this bad boy. Of course, in the previous video, we saw that these connectors here were cracked and broken. So we definitely had to get this one replaced. This came as a complete unit. So I do believe this is the transmission oil cooler. Here's the old cracked one, like that. And then he has the nice new one sitting quite sweetly, snugly in those pipe holders then. As the engine one has the fan that we also need to get replaced, so that runs from here down here, and then the fan sits roughly over there. So this we'll have to get a new piping coming down there, sitting here with a housing and an air duct in there, but we'll get that sorted once this has been straightened up forward. Here on these N55 engines, it is a common issue for this seal to start going here. So I've ordered a new seal, I've ordered a new oil filter, I've got new oil for it, I've got new coolant for it with a bottle on the way. And yeah, so we will be removing this, changing the seal that's inside here, change the oil filter, of course change the oil. I've got these as well, so it's the tensioner and this pulley. As you can see here, this pulley did get damaged, so we'll definitely have to change that. So these two come as a complete set with the bolt. So it will be the bolt, the pulley and the tensioner. But this is our first bad boy that allowed us to at least start the car. We did make a bit of a connection here between these two. So it was just a lead pipe and a return pipe. So because it was high pressure, we did have to use the clamps to clamp that together just to start the car and run it for a couple of minutes. We were able to just do a quick little bypass here. If we had to run the car for longer, it would need to cool it down. That's why you've got a small little radiator down here. So just for the time being, we've ran a little bypass, but this is on its way. So let's crack on. So one of the important things was the oil cooler radiator. So this came in a pack with the pipe as well, so that will sort of sit like that leading up to the engine itself. So this sits roughly around there, and then those pipes link up here to go there. So these pipes go up here, and then that sits roughly around there. Now next was the tensioner and the pulley itself. So let's see if we can open this up here, get a good look. Okay, so here's the new tensioner, here's the new bolt, and then the pulley there. New tensioner, new pulley, and our new bolt. So now that here, so here's the tensioner, here's the new pulley, and then the bolt will of course come around something like that with the aircon pump still sitting there. So now it's time to attack this big box. So let's see what's inside. So straight off the bat, we have got a brand new oil filter, and then we've got a bumper reinforcement bar that sits right at the bottom. So here we have two 5-liter coolant water bottles. It is the blue coolant. I know that works best with these BMW engines, and the oil filter housing. So here's the coolant radiator, nice and fresh, brand new out the box, and here is the aircon radiator as well. So a nice brand new coolant radiator. So this is for a petrol automatic. So you'll see there's two bigger fittings and two smaller fittings. With the manuals, they are a bit different, so always double check the fittings before you purchase one. So I think one of the big issues why we can't get the car starting is because there is a small little fuse at the back next to the battery, very similar to a pyro fuse. So what it does is when a car is in an accident or anything like that, well, the fuse goes off and then it cuts the power supply to fuel pumps or the fuel lines, everything electrical besides the sort of interior shuts down. Just of course, so the car doesn't light on fire and things like that, which tries to prevent it. So what I'm talking about is the positive terminal here. So we've just popped this one off here. As you can see, this has punctured out here, which is usually meant to be in, but because it's been in an accident, it has popped out, and this prevents any short circuits in the vehicle once it's been in a car accident. So I've ordered in a piece that comes all along with these two as well. So we've opened this one up here, so we'll have to disconnect this one, disconnect that one, pop it in these two clips as well, and it comes in a complete brand new one with this popped inside. So let's get it done. So we removed the arch lining on both sides just so we could expose the front chassis there, And next we'll be tackling all this double plastic that they had to put over the car, just because of course the car did not come with any keys, so the windows were up to about there. So to not let any rain or anything in, they did have to cover it with this plastic all across the front of the window there. Now a bit of water did seep through, as you can see here on the seat, so we'll definitely have to give this a scrub. We will be doing a full detail on the car, but for now, just to tackle the seat, it has been sun-kissed a bit here, but we can definitely pop a bit of shine on that to get that back to its color. So yeah, let's start tackling this plastic up here and a bit on the door down there. So I started off by just gently rubbing it with a bit of petrol. That does get rid of all the excess glue and makes the plastic on top a lot weaker, just so I can slowly start ripping off the ends and then working my way with the hairdryer later on, so it is a lot lighter and easier to come off. Now you can definitely go ahead and use a heat gun, but I wouldn't recommend that because the heat gun can get really hot, so you don't want to damage the paint or the clear coat by any way. So with the hairdryer you can control the heat, so of course make it a bit hotter when it's not coming off, or make it a bit cooler when you think that it is getting a bit too hot. Now you can see how nicely it's coming off, so I'm heating it up just before I'm pulling it off, so you can see how nicely and smoothly that comes off. Then after that, just rubbing it down with some petrol, and I've got a bit of a scrubber here to just get any of that tough glue that's still sitting in there with the plastic. I'll scrap that down and then of course rub it down with some petrol, and slowly but surely we are starting to get it off. Now the scrubber is plastic, so it won't damage the clear coat or the paint, and I'm not applying too much pressure, just enough to get that glue off, and check how nice it came out. Passenger side all nice and done, so let's get on to the driver side. So very similar to the other side, just putting a bit of petrol on the cloth and then giving a nice rub down. As you can see, it is coming out quite nicely, so I'll definitely recommend, if you have something similar coming up, get yourself a 5-litre bottle of petrol, a couple of cloths, and you should be good to rock and roll. Now this side was definitely a lot worse than the other side. It seemed like they had put two different types of plastics over it, so the one plastic really sunk into the clear coat. So it was the first process of rubbing it down, seeing what glue and plastic I could get off, and then just the rinse and repeat process of scrubbing it down, heating it up and washing it off with a bit of petrol. Eventually I did have to call up for a bit of backup and support, so as I was scrubbing down, my dad was there with the cloth filled with petrol just to rub down all the glue and things like that. So as you can see here, I've gone over, taken majority of the plastic off, and he's come now with the cloth full of petrol just to get the remainder of that off. Now this definitely teaches you a lot of patience and appreciation for the car you're working on, but eventually it will be all worth it in the end. Now that that is all done, we can finally start moving on to the other parts, but we'll keep that for next week's video. If you like what you've seen, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it with anyone you think that would enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. So I'm sure you're wondering, Brian, what about cosmetics things? What about the bonnet? What about headlights? What about front bumper? And that's where this comes in. So I've just bought another BMW 1 Series.